So out of everything that you've researched when it comes to this type of influence, this sort of dark influence in our government and in our country and our the tech and all of this, what would you say is the most threatening? Would you say that it's the lobby, like the APAC lobby on the politicians? Would you say that it's the partnership with the tech companies? Would you say that it's the blackmail operation of Epstein? Like, what would you say? I know all of it is all of it, but what is the most, I guess,
Yeah.
powerful force that if we were to unravel one and start with one, which one should it be?
Yeah, I think the most threatening currently is the tech related stuff because essentially we don't have control over our critical infrastructure anymore. Whether that's dams or water systems or any of these things that we're being told are being hacked, right?
Right.
For example, this recent hack blamed on Iran on the water supply in Pennsylvania. That was an Israeli company that was running the water supply. And it's not just that. I mean, our military has a company called Cyber Reason that has simulated canceling US presidential elections and declaring martial law and all sorts of insane stuff. They have a backdoor into like our entire like a bunch of critical infrastructure of like the military. That's insane. And how is that allowed? That's allowed because criminals run the United States government that are not loyal to the American people. They do not actually care about American national security, but they use national security as a justification to cover up their
Right.
crimes against people abroad and people at home. So we have a very serious situation there where we can't trust the systems that are supposedly designed to protect us, and they can be undermined by a foreign intelligence agency that wants us to go to war on their behalf
And the
at some
politicians are
point.
so vocal when it comes to China infiltrating, right? They'll say, oh, these tech companies that are partnering too much with China and ultimately give China the tech and China then China, right? They're very, very focused on that. And I think that I mean, for me, I think that it's fair enough to be focused on foreign influence and foreign partnership when it comes to defense and tech. I kind of have this, I feel like we shouldn't be selling weapons to anyone else in the world. American-made weapons should be for America's
Hmm.
defense only and not for anybody else's. Same thing with tech. Like, we should be keeping certain things as a matter of national security just to America. So I also agree that I don't want to see foreign countries partnering with our private tech industries or private defense industries and then ultimately gaining access to this high-level stuff. But they're only focused on China or they're only focused on Russia. And what you're
Hmm.
saying is that, no, but Israel's been doing it and we act like Israel's like the 51st state and it's no big deal. When in reality, if China was doing all the exact same things that Israel was doing, there would be laws, I think, already in place saying that that's not allowed. You can't do that. If you just
Yeah.
swap out the player instead of Israel, China.
Well, there have been documented cases of Israel passing on sensitive U.S. military technology onto China, and nothing's been done.
Right.
So that goes to show you that a lot of this, rhetoric about China or also on Russia is really fear. It's partisan theatrics, really, at the end of the day. As I see it, they want the left angry and ready to go to war with Russia. They want the right angry and ready to go to war with China.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a manufactured thing. And there's really no interest in seeing, what the extent of that influence really is. And again, like a lot of these things, whether it's Russian hacking or Chinese hacking, involves these intelligence linked firms to tell us that they're to blame for things like CrowdStrike or Recorded Future, or now we have the CTI League. We can't be trusting these people. They're definitely not trustworthy actors. And it's, it's completely insane. Don't really have any other way to describe it, but it's definitely problematic. And I think it's particularly when it comes to conservative rhetoric on China. If you look, for example, at how there was a brief outrage in conservative circles about the number of White House visits that Epstein made to the Clinton White House. Zero interest in figuring out why that was. And that's because it was centered around this scandal of the Clinton administration, remembered as Chinagate, but it's really more like China-Israel Gate because it involved this significant transfer of sensitive satellite and military technology from the US and influencing basically pay to play stuff with the Clintons and the DNC, and to pass this off to China, but it involved people like Epstein and people affiliated with Israel in the middle. And there's been very little interest in getting to the bottom of that in conservative media because they're very uninterested in touching or even leveling the slightest criticism against Israel, even when it's something that has gravely harmed American national security. And that's very disturbing, I would say, if you truly are America first, and that's your ostensible policy goal, because that's not happening.
Yeah, it needs to be a blanket policy for all foreign countries, not just the ones we don't
Exactly.
like and the ones that we like. Because we've partnered it's like how often do we need to repeat history where we think somebody's our friend and we partner with them and we sell them weapons and we train them or whatever it is, and then the next thing we know we're at war with them 20 years later. Like with the Mujahideen, for example, in Afghanistan, that ended up turning into Al Qaeda, and all the moderate rebels that we've armed, or even what Israel has done with Hamas over the years, propping them up, building them up, and now look at where they're at with them. So it's not a good strategy ever to think that someone's your friend and to give them all of this access and all of these weapons and treat them like they're one of you when they're clearly not. You might be friends forever, you might never be enemies ever, but still it's not a good national security strategy to be trusting any foreign country, be they the British or the Israelis.
Absolutely. And, frankly, we know, for example, from WikiLeaks and the release of Hillary Clinton's emails, that one of the main motivators behind U.S. covert operations in Syria, which have caused an insane amount of damage to that country and have just led to a lot of death and destruction and major issues, was motivated almost entirely by Israel. She said, we're doing this for Israel in her emails. So how many wars are we going to fight for this country the size of New Jersey?
Right.
And spending American wealth and American lives and having the American military kill innocent billions on behalf of this country? Well, they get billions in military aid. I don't see why they can't do it themselves.
And I don't know if there's any other country we do that for. Is there any other relationship that we have that's similar that we would? I mean, minus like right now with Ukraine,
like
but that's
this one.
Quick, right? Exactly. I don't know if we have any other relationship where we would say, well, we'll do anything for you.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's quite unique.